Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the confusing world of corporate filings, and boy do we have a filing that looks like a treasure map leading to, well, let's just say some interesting financial signposts. Today we are looking at Northpointe Bankshares Inc.'s latest filing, and while it's not a full quarterly report, it gives us a peek into how they announced their financial results for the quarter that ended on June 30, 2025. Think of it as the behind the scenes of their big financial news. This is Northpointe Bankshares, a company that, as of this report, is flying under the radar as an emerging growth company. That means they get some special treatment when it comes to following new accounting rules, which can be a big deal for how their financial story is told. Their main stock is traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol NPB. Now, this filing itself doesn't contain the actual juicy financial numbers we usually dive into. Instead, it's all about the announcements of those numbers. They've sent out a press release and some supplemental financial information related to their second quarter results. So what's in this announcement package? We've got a press release that came out on July 22, 2025. This is the official word from Northpointe about how they're doing. It's essentially their way of saying, here's how we performed financially. Then there's also something called supplemental financial information, also released on July 22nd. This is like the director's cut of their financial results, often giving more details and context than the main press release. It's where you might find those extra nuggets of truth. And here's something to note, they also announced a conference call for July 23, 25. This is where the company's executives, like their chief financial officer, will actually break down these results for investors and analysts. It's usually a really good place to hear management's take and ask tough questions. Now, because this filing is more about the announcement of financial results rather than the results themselves, we don't have tables of revenue, profit, or balance sheet items to dissect right here. However, the fact that they are releasing supplemental information on top of a press release suggests they wish to give investors a really clear picture of their performance for the quarter ending June 30, 2025. This often happens when companies have significant events or want to highlight certain aspects of their business. For an emerging growth company, these disclosures are crucial for shareholders to understand the underlying health of the bank. Think about it this way, a press release is often carefully crafted to put the best foot forward. The supplemental information is where they might provide more granular data, perhaps showing how specific business lines performed or detailing trends in loans, deposits, or interest income. It's where the real story often hides. We'd be looking for things like net interest income, which is the core profit a bank makes from its lending activities, how their provision for loan losses changed, and their efficiency ratio, which shows how well they manage their operating costs. For Northpointe as a bank, these metrics are like the vital signs. For example, if their net interest income grew significantly, that's a strong positive, usually meaning they are earning more on their loans than they pay out on deposits. But if their loan loss provisions also spiked, it could indicate they are worried about customers not being able to pay back their loans, which is a significant risk. These supplemental documents also often include comparisons to previous periods, say the first quarter of 2025 or the second quarter of 2024. Seeing a trend like a steady increase in deposits or a shrinking loan portfolio can tell its own story about the company's strategy and its position in the market. As an emerging growth company, Northpointe might be in a phase of expansion or perhaps navigating economic headwinds. The details in those supplemental filings will shed light on whether they are growing profitably and managing their risks effectively. For instance, if they reported a much higher net charge-off rate compared to last year, that would be a red flag about asset quality. The fact that they are hosting a conference call is also telling. It means management believes they have something to discuss and are willing to face direct questions about it. Investors will be listening closely for management's outlook, any strategic shifts they're planning, and how they see the economic landscape affecting their business moving forward. This type of filing, an 8K, is typically used to announce major events that shareholders need to know about promptly. In this case, the major event is the communication of their quarterly financial results. It's the company's formal signal to the public markets about their performance. Now, looking at the filings themselves, the key takeaway is that Northpointe Bankshares is releasing its financial update for the quarter ending June 30, 2025, and it's doing so through a press release and additional supplemental information. They're also setting up a call to discuss it. From a Warren Buffett perspective, we want to see consistency, profitability, and a clear understanding of the business. For a bank, that means stable net interest margins, controlled expenses, and a low rate of loan defaults. The supplemental information is where we dig for those deeper truths. If the supplemental data shows a significant increase in non-performing loans, even if the press release sounds positive, that's a concern we'd note. Conversely, if they show a strong growth in core deposits and a healthy capital ratio, that's a sign of underlying financial strength. We always want to see how a company's reported numbers stack up against the broader economic environment and its competitors. For Northpointe, are they gaining market share? Is their loan growth outpacing the industry? Or are they being more conservative? The details in their supplemental financial information will often provide the answers. In summary, while this specific filing doesn't give us the numbers directly, it's the precursor to a fuller financial picture. Northpointe Bankshares is signaling that it's time to look at their Q2 2025 performance. The real insight will come from actually reading that press release and the supplemental financial information they've attached. Now, looking at these results more broadly, Northpointe Bankshares seems to be actively communicating its performance. As an emerging growth company, they have the flexibility to adopt new accounting standards later, which can impact how their earnings appear. We need to pay close attention to the numbers released in the attached exhibits to understand their actual financial direction. Are they growing their loan book profitably? Is their deposit base stable and low cost? These are the questions the supplemental information should help answer. A potential risk might be increased competition in the banking sector, which could squeeze margins, or economic slowdowns affecting loan demand book profitably. Is their deposit base stable and low cost? These are the questions the supplemental information should help answer. A potential risk might be increased competition in the banking sector, which could squeeze margins, or economic slowdowns affecting loan demand and repayment. However, if their supplemental data shows strong interest margin expansion and effective cost control, these risks may be well managed. Alright, that's our breakdown of Northpointe Bankshares' announcement filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Do you think they are setting themselves up for a strong performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate filings. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description for more community discussion and analysis. Thanks for watching. See you next time.